एक्ट है, एयरफोर्स एक्ट है, आपका कोस्टल गार्ड एक्ट है, आपका BSF एक्ट है, आपका ITBPF है, इंडो तिब्बतन बॉर्डर पुलिस फोर्स एक्ट। हमें पता है कि चलो ठीक है, 377 has been decriminalized, we all know that. But armed forces law or military laws still have a very grim or flinty view of homosexuality. Army Act and all these acts जिनके मैंने अभी नाम लिए, they all say that कि in case any personnel is in a consensual homosexual relationship, he will be court-martialed, he will be dismissed from service, and he can be imprisoned for 7 years. This provision has not been amended as of now, but there is no provision, there is no prohibition against a heterosexual couple, heterosexual two army persons marrying or having a relationship that does not culminate into marriage. They are perfectly allowed to maintain relationship, consensual, but homosexual are not. And in case they do, they will be sent behind bars. This shows again how gender neutral Indian laws are. Uske baad, this last thing, I will go with Indian Penal Code. It's very fascinating. ये सब हम समझ सकते हैं कि हाँ कुछ जेंडर का इश्यू है, बायस्ड है, बट आईपीसी में वी डोंट इवन रियलाइज फर्स्ट रीडिंग में, सेकंड रीडिंग में कि हाउ बायस्ड इट इज. इंडियन पीनल कोड में प्राइवेट डिफेंस का राइट है. प्राइवेट डिफेंस मींस यू कैन डिफेंड योर बॉडी,
Your audio is dropping. You need to repeat this thing again.
Your audio is breaking. Yeah.
Okay, is it fine now?
Yeah. You can repeat the things that in last two lines.
Yeah.
IPC.
So I was saying कि IPC में, हाँ, IPC में एक प्रोविजन है प्राइवेट डिफेंस, सेक्शन 96 से लेके 106 तक. प्राइवेट डिफेंस या डिफेंस का मतलब होता है कि यू कैन प्रोटेक्ट योर बॉडी अगेंस्ट एनी हार्म, यू कैन प्रोटेक्ट योर प्रॉपर्टी अगेंस्ट एनी हार्म, एंड यू कैन प्रोटेक्ट समवन एल्स बॉडी और एल्स प्रॉपर्टी आल्सो. कि आपके सामने किसी को अटैक हो रहा है तो आप वहां डिफेंस कर सकते हो, आप सामने वाले को धक्का दे सकते हो, हटा सकते हो. द ओनली कंडीशन इज दैट फोर्स शुड बी प्रोपोर्शनेट. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं कि कोई आपको लाठी लेके आया और आपने चाकू से खून नहीं कर दिया. दैट्स नॉट डिफेंस. यू हैव एक्सीडेड द लिमिट ऑफ फोर्स यू कुड हैव यूज्ड, एंड डेंजर शुड बी इमिनेंट. कि इमीडिएट डेंजर है आपकी लाइफ को, आपकी प्रॉपर्टी को, किसी और की लाइफ को, किसी और की प्रॉपर्टी को. अब प्रोविजन अपने आप में बिल्कुल जेंडर न्यूट्रल है, लेकिन ये किस तरह से अप्लाई करती है जुडिशरी. A woman using private defense is looked upon differently by the judiciary. फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक बड़ा ही फेमस केस है, ऐश्वर्या राय की मूवी भी थी प्रोवोक्ड करके, किरणजीत आलूवालिया बेसिकली. तो वो यूके जाती है 21-22 साल की उम्र में, उसकी शादी होती है किसी NRI समथिंग से, और 10 साल की शादी है. पूरे 10 साल डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस फेस करती है, मैरिटल रेप फेस करती है, इवन उसको खाना तक नहीं दिया जाता, घर से बाहर नहीं निकलने दिया जाता. शी इज डिप्राइव्ड ऑफ द बेसिक लिबर्टीज. उसके बाद एक दिन पति पत्नी का आपस में झगड़ा होता है, और झगड़े में 2-3 घंटे बाद पति सो जाता है, वो पति के बेड को आग लगा देती है और वो मर जाता है. तो जो कोर्ट था यूके का, आई थिंक इट वाज यूके ओनली, तो यूके के कोर्ट ने उसे कन्विक्ट किया फर्स्ट डिग्री मर्डर के लिए कि ये मर्डर किया है इसने. तो किरणजीत आलूवालिया की काउंसिल कहती है, एक्चुअली हमारा लॉ ये कहता है कि अगर को 2 तरह के मर्डर होते हैं, कोल्ड ब्लडेड और हॉट ब्लडेड. हॉट ब्लडेड मतलब कि आपको एकदम से किसी ने प्रोवोक किया, आपने मारा, वो मर गया, इमीडिएट रिएक्शन. कोल्ड ब्लडेड होता है कि आपने प्लानिंग करी, प्लॉटिंग करी. तो किरणजीत आलूवालिया के केस में कोर्ट ने यही कहा कि सॉरी, जिसकी पनिशमेंट थोड़ी सी.
There is an issue with your audio, Swati.
Okay, I will switch off my video. Is it fine now?
No, you can switch it on now. It's not clear.
Okay, I was just getting a call, maybe that's fine. तो किरणजीत आलूवालिया के केस में कोर्ट ने कहा कि शी हैड अ कूलिंग ऑफ पीरियड, 2-3 घंटे थे, और उसको कोई इमिनेंट थ्रेट नहीं था. पति ने थ्रेट किया कि मैं तेरे को मार दूंगा, वो सो गया, तो कूलिंग ऑफ पीरियड था. फिर उसने इनफ्लेमेबल सब्सटेंस कहीं से प्रोक्योर किया, कहीं से लेके आई, तो उसकी प्लानिंग प्लॉटिंग थी. इट्स अ कोल्ड ब्लडेड मर्डर, जिसकी पनिशमेंट ज्यादा होती है एज कम्पेयर टू हॉट ब्लडेड. किरणजीत आलूवालिया की काउंसिल बोलती है कि इट्स नॉट कूलिंग ऑफ पीरियड, इट इज बॉइलिंग ओवर पीरियड. 10 साल से इतना टॉर्चर, डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस, रेप शी वाज डीलिंग विद, तो वो आज निकल के आया, शी वाज बॉइलिंग ओवर. और दूसरी चीज क्या है, इंडिया में भी सेम यही व्यू है कि अगर आपको 2-3 घंटे का गैप मिलता है, दैट्स अ कूलिंग ऑफ पीरियड, आपने प्लानिंग करके मर्डर किया है. लेकिन जुडिशरी, जजेस हमारे और लेजिस्लेटर हमारे ये चीज नहीं समझते कि इंडिया इज अ हाइपरगैमस सोसाइटी. There is always a substantial physical difference between a man, husband, and the wife. Husband tend to be taller, heavier, and older. Women tend to be smaller, leaner, and younger in age. So it is very difficult. It is not practical at all for a woman to fight back a man in case of domestic violence is happening or a rape is happening, right? She cannot use proportionate force. So what women do, I was going through the cases of Haryana and Punjab. Majority of the time they wait for the husband to sleep or him to be intoxicated and then murder him with some agriculture sharp weapon, or the easier way, the convenient way, they give him poison. So isko court kya kehta hai, ye planning or plotting hai, to ye cooling off period bhi hai iske paas, so she will be given more punishment. It is not considered as private defense. So this is one big problem in कैसे जुडिशरी perceive करती है behavior norms को. तो उन्होंने एक सेट नॉर्म बना दिया है कि आदमी जो करता है दैट इज द नॉर्म, और उससे अगर आप डेविएट करते हो तो वो कुछ अलग है एंड शुड बी पेनलाइज इन केस ऑफ आईपीसी. तो ये तो प्राइवेट डिफेंस का केस हो गया कि औरत खुद को कैसे डिफेंड करती है अगेंस्ट वायलेंस, अगेंस्ट अब्यूज. दूसरा है मर्डर. मर्डर का कोई नहीं कह सकता कि इट इज बायस्ड, बट देयर इज वन प्रॉब्लम अगेन इन द सेक्शन ऑफ मर्डर. 300 में मर्डर दे रखा है. कुछ एक्सेप्शंस है कि कल्पेबल होमोसाइड किन सिचुएशन में मर्डर नहीं होता. अगर किसी व्यक्ति को सामने से ग्रेव एंड सडन प्रोवोकेशन होती है जिसकी वजह से ही लूजेस हिज सेल्फ कंट्रोल एंड ही हिट समवन एंड दैट पर्सन डाइज, इट इज नॉट मर्डर, इट इज कल्पेबल होमोसाइड नॉट अमाउंटिंग टू मर्डर, जिसकी पनिशमेंट अगेन कम होती है मर्डर के कंपैरिजन में. ठीक है, 2-3 साल का डिफरेंस आ जाता है. तो यहाँ पे क्या चीज हम अगर देखते हैं कि आप एक बात बताइए, और केस आप लोगों ने नानावती वाली मूवी देखी होगी अक्षय कुमार की, जिसमें वो विक्टिम को मार देता बिकॉज ही वाज हैविंग एन अफेयर विद अ वाइफ. उसमें कोर्ट, नानावती वाले कोर्ट केस में कोर्ट कहती है कि वर्ड्स, जेस्चर की वजह से भी सडन प्रोवोकेशन हो सकता है इतना ग्रेव कि सामने वाले ने बिना कुछ सोचे समझे आपको मार दिया, तो उसको सजा कम मिलनी चाहिए. और एक केस था फट्टा वर्सेस एम्परर का, बहुत पुराने टाइम का केस है. फट्टा वर्सेस एम्परर में कोर्ट ये कहता है कि अगर एक पति अपने पत्नी को कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग पोजीशन में देखता है तो इट इज ग्रेव एंड सडन प्रोवोकेशन एंड ही कैन किल ईदर द वाइफ और हर फार्मर. अब मुझे अपने आसपास पॉप कल्चर में, अपनी सोसाइटी में अगर आप देखेंगे, इज दिस द नॉर्म? क्या अगर बीवी को पता लगता है कि पति का अफेयर है तो वो उसे जान से इतना प्रोवोक हो जाती है कि वो उसे उसी टाइम मार देती है? नहीं. वी हैव शाइनी आहूजा हु रेप्ड हिज मेट. उसकी वाइफ ने तो उसे डिफेंड किया. धर्मेंद्र की फर्स्ट वाइफ, शी डिफेंडेड हिम. हमारे पास बिल क्लिंटन का एग्जांपल, हिलरी क्लिंटन डिफेंडेड हर हस्बैंड, राइट? तो वुमेन बिहेवियर कैसा है? दे टेंड टू डिफेंड देयर हस्बैंड बिकॉज मैरिज का सेटअप ऐसा होता है, माइंडसेट ऐसा होता है, एम्पावरमेंट नहीं है, फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस नहीं है, वेरियस रीजंस फॉर इट. दूसरा, या तो वो लड़ लेगी, इट्स अ वर्बल फाइट, थोड़ा बहुत फिजिकल होगा, थोड़ा बहुत वायलेंस, बट अगेन हाइपरगैमिस सोसाइटी, फिजिकल डिफरेंसेस, बहुत ज्यादा वायलेंस शी इज नॉट एबल टू यूज. डाइवोर्स के लिए फाइल कर देगी, नाराज होकर घर चली जाएगी. बट देयर इज नॉट इवन अ सिंगल केस इन माय नॉलेज. आई हैव एक्सप्लोर्ड सो मेनी केसेस जहाँ पे वुमेन ने immediately react किया and she killed the person. She got so provoked that she killed her husband or the partner, person he was cheating on with. So here what the law is trying to say, all of the laws, what a man does is the norm. Anyone who deviates from it, either it's special in nature, ठीक है, or it is an offense. If it's a criminal law तो उसे offense बोल देते हैं. So this is very problematic. Indian laws have a gender. We are not gender neutral. We assume we are not in reality. And I gave you so many examples of so many statutes. There are many more. Because of time constraint, I will not be talking about them. तो इतने एग्जाम्पल्स हैं. एक टाइम पे बारटेंडिंग के लिए मना कर दिया था कि औरतें बारटेंडर का काम नहीं करेंगी, शराब के ठेके पे नहीं बैठेंगी, सेफ नहीं, ऑक्यूपेशनल हजार्ड. कभी कहा जाता है कि नाइट शिफ्ट नहीं कर सकती हैं, तो ये बारटेंडिंग वाला बैन तो अभी भी चल रहा है. बार डांसर की तरह काम नहीं कर सकते. इंस्टेड ऑफ प्रोवाइडिंग प्रोटेक्शन टू द वुमेन, इंस्टेड ऑफ प्रोवाइडिंग safety and security, instead of working on the criminal justice system, the legislator and the judiciary and the courtrooms are saying no, we can't provide you security, we can't provide you safety. So वो romantic paternalism होता है कि state is a father figure, a very misogynist father state is, I have to say. So they try to suppress them. They violate the right to life, personal liberty, livelihood, etc. And yeah, So law is not gender neutral. Law has a gender, and the gender is male. Law works in favor of the male because it is drafted by the male. It is drafted from a male point of view, male perspective, their lived experience. So yeah, that was my
Yeah, I
talk.
mean, it was seriously a crisp and crystal understanding of. See, before this, I was having an understanding, a fluid understanding of this thing that laws at least will have, some lacunas, but it's so gender biased, and then it was such an elaborate thing. Now I reckon that there is an overhaul that's needed. I'll come back to you on the Uniform Civil Code because that's in there. Maybe government is considering it seriously. Will that happen, or will it help the laws that are colonial or that have an issue when it comes to gender equality? Is it something that government will be thinking on, or will a society as a large will think upon it or consider it? I'll come back to Mantasha on this, that she has done her PhD on the a subject of gender violence in Kashmir. Mantasha, you have understood, you have lived only in this society, not only in this society. When I say, I just mean it from a different sense. You have lived through this, you are understanding it, and you have written on it, you have researched on this topic. Tell us, where does the problem actually lie? Be that ideologically, is feminism yet not has not crept yet into the social milieu? Is gender empowerment still a taboo? What are the major roadblocks when it comes to the society of Kashmir? Over to you, Mantasha.
Thank you, Miraj. And thank you, Swati. That was such a wonderful, lecture about gender and law, and obviously all-encompassing, and pointing out so many interpretations in law. So, Miraj, I would like to pick it up where Swati dropped it, because Swati rightly pointed out that Indian law basically sees masculine body or masculine behavior or masculine construction as normal, routine, and acceptable. And anything which is not masculine, which I, had said at the beginning also, is special, needs special provision. So when you say special provision, you are already telling people that we are giving them a concession because they are weak, they require it. So if a woman is lactating, if a woman is pregnant, she requires special leave, special care. So you're already putting in the minds of people that they are weak, they are vulnerable, therefore they need special treatment. It is not special; it is equal, because the idea of equality has basically been substituted with the idea of equity, in public policy or largely. And equity means whatever you require as a person, whatever your biology, your sociology requires, you be given that in order for you to operate as a normal global citizen, as an individual. So when a woman requires that she be given extra holidays or extra care as a woman, so it's not, the flaw is not with her. We are not giving her anything special. We are just catering to her need, and it's not her need. The need is of the society because she's bringing in a child, which is for the family, for the progeny, for the whole, the whole society. So it's not that we are giving her concession. So basically, the construction of a weaker sex goes back to Aristotle and Socrates, who see masculine body as a complete body, and a feminine body they call a disabled body, a body which doesn't fit in, the completeness of a male body. And that is where the interpretations in Bible, or we sometimes even ascribe it to Quran. We say that Hawa came from the rib of Adam, which is basically a biblical tale that Eve was created from the rib of Adam. And some interventionists, they say that it means that a woman is twisted. If you sort of try to straighten her, she'll rather break than be straightened. So the whole idea, the whole construction of gender as rigid and as masculine and feminine, having specific roles, is basically the basis of discrimination, the basis of bias, and the basis of everyday brutality, and everyday, I would say, normalization of violence which a woman has to face. because I'm like I said, I'm linking it with what Swati said. Law is constructed in such a manner because there is a social understanding of a woman being weak, of a woman's body being fragile, vulnerable, of the idea of femininity being in need of care and protection, be it the Raksha Bandhan or be it Kanya Dan, or for instance, be it giving only one third property to a Muslim woman, as against an equal share in property for a a Muslim man. Or for that matter, the whole idea of triple talaq, which was obviously politicized in a different manner, but that just the verbal utterance of a man can cause a marital bond to break irreversibly, which basically gives disproportionate power to a man, in the institution of marriage. So when the sociology, when the construction, the discursive construction of gender is made in such a manner that it disproportionately empowers a male and puts a woman at a disadvantage, violence is the obvious outcome. It's not creeping in from somewhere. We are constructing the situation where violence becomes normal. आपके पास सारा मसाला है वायलेंस के लिए, मिर्ची है, हल्दी है, नमक है, तो वायलेंस क्यों नहीं होगा? वो तो उबलेगा ना. The pot will obviously overflow. So when you say that it's a woman's responsibility to produce children, to take care of children, I mean there are economic feminists who look at the economy of caregiving, who say that how much care work goes, unpaid, how nurses, how mothers, how elders, how women take care of children or sick people or people who are in need of care work, and how it is seen as and constructed as a woman's responsibility. I agree, a woman has to bear a child. I agree that a woman has to lactate, but I don't agree that a man cannot change diapers. I don't agree that a man cannot, bathe a child. I mean, I am saying these things which may look very ordinary, but they are the ingredients of everyday violence, and that is what I observe in my society. That is what I observe largely in South Asia, and having lived here in Kashmir, having observed the society very closely, we also have a women's group called Kashmir Women's Collective. So wherein we provide some support to victim survivors of violence, be it psychological I'll come to that later. But the construction of violence is so routinized, so normalized here that when you say this is the woman's role to take care of house, and then even if she goes out of home and she's able to earn for herself and for family, even then she is supposed to do all the work at home, all the chores at home. So she goes into double shift. She does care work, she does the economic work, and she has to do everything at home. And if she's unable to do it, there are, basically punishment, subtle punishment. For example, we women judge each other by how clean we keep our house. अच्छा मैं उसके घर गई थी, उसको तो बच्चे संभालने का तरीका नहीं है, उसको तो घर, उसकी कुकिंग, ओ माय गॉड, ठीक है भाई, जज है वो, फिर क्या हो गया, बट ये तो एक औरत का बेसिक है ना, ये तो गहना है ना. तो how in society, how in customs, how in culture, we construct the gender role and value certain things and ascribe it to femininity or female gender. That is where we take out the marks, we judge her very strongly, and slowly we justify violence against her. A survey was done, अभी मेरे ख्याल से Times of India में publish हुआ था, in which women across India justified violence against them. And I think उसमें 55% of women in Jammu and Kashmir justified violence against themselves. And they were asked against women is justified. So the topmost reason was not taking care of home, being negligent towards children. घर भी औरत का है, बच्चे भी औरत के हैं, उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, वो पैदा होते ही उसने ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले ली थी. And second point was, if she goes out of home or goes to meet her parents or someone else without proper permission from husband. So the idea of permission means that you are basically going back to the age-old idea of man being the protector, man being the provider, and man being someone who controls you, controls your mobility, controls your economy, and controls your psychology. It goes back to the time when women did not have a right to vote, when a father's or a husband's a political ideology would be seen as a woman's ideology because she was a commodity, she was a thing, she could not think politically for herself. Similarly, today, if a woman has to go out, she has to seek permission. So a couple of situations in which women thought that it's all right for a man to use violence against her. So when the violence against women, when the misogyny is so internalized by women themselves that we think it's all right if a man uses violence against us, ek thappad hi to mara hai. Sometimes they uh, they construct toxic masculinity या hegemonic masculinity in such a manner that we celebrate it as heroism. तो कोई बंदा किसी लड़की को फॉलो कर रहा है, she says no, but बंदे को समझ नहीं आता, he goes to her home and he's standing there like a statue पूरा दिन पूरा रात, तो लड़की खिड़की खोलती है तो he's still there. तो
I reckon there's
आप IPC 354 सेक्शन में जाइए. Now Indian Penal Code has classified it as a form of violence, it as a form of criminal activity. But how we celebrate the idea of affection towards a woman? Mehraj, do you want to say something?
No, actually, I was telling that there is a glitch, technical glitch that's coming in between and it's dropping. I reckon you are having a poor network, but still you can continue. Are you? Am I audible, Mantasha? Okay, I guess I've lost the connection. Anushka, I'll come back to you. You left us with this thing that in South Asia there are issues that come up. You have been researching on this thing. What are the typical things that normally, what are the precise things I'll say, which normally can be taken up as a larger representative of the inequalities that are so deep rooted and the issues particularly that pertain to women. How are countries across the region dealing with this thing? Is there any country that's taking the lead in narrowing down the bridge or trying to implement the policies and coming up with the laws and legislations that can actually help in coming up with this thing, gender equality, and helping us as a region to go ahead? Are there any, Anushka?
So firstly, I would like to go back to what Swati and Mantasha have already stated, and just taking pages from their book, because number one, Swati, that was a very in-depth analysis of the whole Indian legal system, that there were certain laws which I was also not aware about, and it really gave me a great insight about it. So I was just making notes all about it. And going back to the question, see, the thing is that the problem of inequality is very universal, because the inequality comes from the idea of patriarchy and misogyny. Patriarchy and misogyny very fundamentally is universal towards everyone. You go in the east, you go in central, you go in the west, you go towards north or global south. Patriarchy and misogyny is defined by one same statement, that one particular gender is above the other. They are the food provider, they are the protector, they are the god, they are the savior, and they have to save this another gender which is very fragile, very vulnerable, and that particular gender is the caregiver. So, like, if we go towards the definition of patriarchy, it basically defines that how male is the provider, they become the ultimate savior, and they have to be the care, they have to be the savior for the women and their children. Like, a lot of laws, a lot of, not even laws, let's just go to mythology and fictional books, the ones that we used to read in our childhood. A lot of fiction is always derived around the fact that it's always the prince who comes and saves the princess. It's always, a fragile woman who just can't take care of herself. She's irrational, she's moody, but the guy is so calm, so composed, so poised that they come and they solve everything. And it's not just mythology of one particular country, it's mythology it's not mythology but fiction, not in just one particular country but all over the world. You pick up fictional stories of any country, they will always define men as the superior being and women as a second class object, which brings me to two of the very prominent works in feminism of Karen Offer, who wrote in this one book called Defining Feminism in 1988. It's a historical approach, and they try to present that how, our understanding of gender goes way beyond than our academic spaces. It goes beyond even in our childhood, from our fictional mythology to our everyday lifestyle. We always see our mothers being there in the kitchen, working 24 hours. So we understand that as a labor of love. Rather than understanding it as a labor, we understand it as love, and we try to romanticize it and replicate it. Whereas that notion of that, oh, fathers are always supposed to be absent, they're always supposed to be at work, they're always supposed to work hard, they're always supposed to earn money, we, terming them as ATM, we try to define this power in our parents as well. Like we define that when it comes to strong administrative work, we have to go to our fathers, like financial problems, legal problems, problems with like our studies, it always has to be a father. Whereas when it comes to soft power approaches, like, oh, I am having problem with what dress I have to wear, my relationships problem, my problems with my friends, I'll always go towards mother because they know how empathy works. As if, men don't have feelings. And that is not the problem of us human beings. That is the problem of misogyny and patriarchy that we always have been, internalizing within ourselves. So the prominent definition of what feminism is, which is being accepted all over the world, is that feminism is the fight against patriarchy and sexism. It doesn't define that it's a fight against one particular gender, because as much as men would like to say that patriarchy has benefited them, it has, undoubtedly, but it has also, pushed them into a deep pit from which they can't come out, because they think that, oh, patriarchy has given us the power, the privilege, but they've also taken a lot of power and privilege from them. Because now, like how, I mean, if you look at the ills of patriarchy, it's like towards men, they are not allowed to have empathy. They're not allowed to have feelings. They are pushed into the burden of, being the sole earner, being the caregiver for everyone. So obviously that puts a lot of an amount of emotional and physical pressure on you. Like when a male child is born, they're always upheld with the expectations of, oh, you have to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, you have to earn a 6-digit salary, you have to provide for your family, you have to take care after your, bound to be family, your parents. And I'm not saying that it's always the responsibility of the male child. It obviously puts a lot of pressure on you, and this is not something that women has to be, blamed for. The sole blame for this is patriarchy and misogyny. So obviously that idea of, inequality is very universal. However, when you go towards different regionalities and countries, you understand that there are more diverse groups. So if you come towards more South Asian perspective, you will see how patriarchy when it works in class hegemony, when it works in caste hegemony, it has a different a narrative to convey. So in South Asian perspective, we do have Brahminical patriarchy, that the patriarchy we uphold has a lot of references coming from his caste hegemony as well. Like, yes, there is patriarchy, but that patriarchy is deep rooted in how the caste in how the caste in how the caste system exists in India. Like, when savarnas, so when the upper caste, when they define, like if you look in the upper caste communities, how they have patriarchy defined in them. So they gave the right for education towards men and born with them that, oh, you have the right to education, you have the right to be the savior, be the caregiver of the house and everything, and your women is your, your commodity that you have to take care of. So obviously, like, even in Brahminical patriarchy, women were subjected to as a second class citizen. When you come towards, in lower caste communities, even though there have been, like, literature and incidents around that, yes, in Dalit communities, the institution of marriage is more of a partnership. However, wherever gender comes, and wherever this idea of gender inequality comes, gender inequality stems from patriarchy. So to state